This is J. Krishnamurti's fourth public question and answer meeting in Saanen, 1971.
What shall we talk over together this morning?
I would like to discuss fear and death and their relationship to intelligence and thought.
Right, sir. You would like to discuss fear and death. What's the relationship between thought and intelligence?
Set aside one morning to talk about the educational process.
The
Educational process.
could we set a morning apart to discuss or talk over together what is education?
May I repeat a burning question, but it is not necessary, of course, that you answer it this morning. But I would like to find out if real love between man and woman is possible. Because I think I know right now what is love not. And I also am aware that I or we cannot love. But perhaps it is not.
The gentleman wants to discuss, perhaps not this morning, he says, but another morning, the relationship between man and woman and whether there can exist love between them and so on. Could you go into this question of world is me and I am the world?
We go into this question, but not theorizing and speculating what happens after, but whether it's actually possible to die from things known.
Yes, sir. Shall we discuss this morning this question of fear and death, shall we? And then, sir, perhaps we'll answer your question and various other questions involved in it. Shall we go into it rather deeply? Yes. And that means you have to keep a sustained interest in it, a continuous inquiry, not just go off in the middle of it to sleep or think about something else, but pursue one thing like fear completely to the end, shall we? And then death, everything else will come into it. May we do that? Can we tie humor and laughter with fear? We have tied it in now, haven't we? You know, fear is such a complex problem, and we have to inquire into it, not come with any preconceived ideas and so on. You know, really inquire, right? Really penetrate into this whole question of fear. Now, first of all, when you are inquiring into this rather complex issue, we're not trying to deal with it as a group. as a collective fear, or in discussing a group therapy to get rid of fear. So we are just going to find out what fear means and what is its whole structure, nature, whether that fear deep down in the very, very root of our being can be understood, and whether the mind can ever be free from fear. Right? How do you approach this problem? Have you fears? Have you any kind of fear, physical or psychological? So, if one has psychological fears, we'll come back to the physical fears a little later, how do you deal with them? I am afraid that I shall lose my position, my prestige. I depend on the audience, on you, to bolster me up. I depend on you to give me vitality by talking. And I am afraid if I grow older, become senile, gaga, I'll be faced with nothing, and I'm afraid. Right? You're following this? Are you? So I'm afraid. What is this fear? Or I am afraid that I depend on you, man, woman, and that dependency makes me attached to you, and I'm afraid to lose you. You're following all this? I am afraid that I have done something in the past of which I regret or I am ashamed of, and I don't want you to know. So I'm afraid of that, of your knowing it. You're following all this? Therefore, and I feel guilty. Or I feel terribly anxious. Anxiety about death, living, what people say, what people don't say, how they look at me, the deep sense of foreboding, anxiety, a sense of inferiority, and this anxiety, death, living a life that has no meaning, or out of my anxiety I seek some assurance from somebody in human relationship, or I seek a sense of security out of my anxiety in certain belief, ideology, in God, and so on. And also, I am afraid that I shan't be able to do everything I want to do in this life. I haven't the capacity. or the intelligence, but I'm tremendously ambitious to achieve something. And so I'm frightened of that too. You're following all this? And of course I'm afraid of death. And I'm afraid of being lonely, not being loved. And so I want to establish a relationship with another in which this fear doesn't exist. This anxiety, this sense of loneliness, this separation. And also, I'm afraid of the dark. The lift. And the innumerable neurotic fears that one has. Right? Now, what is this fear? Why is one, you, I, or anybody, why is there this fear? Is it based on not being hurt? Not to be hurt. Or is it that one wants complete security and not being able to find it physically, emotionally, psychologically, intellectually, not being able to find this sense of complete safety, security, protection? One becomes terribly anxious about living, life. This sense of uncertainty. Right? Now why is there fear? Please, this is a dialogue. I'm not making a speech. Please. This is a dialogue, talking over together our problems. One of our major problems is fear, whether we are aware of it or not, whether we run away from it or try to overcome it, try to withstand it, develop courage and all the rest of it. There is still fear. I'm asking myself, I'm asking you, whether the mind is so delicate, you understand? So sensitive that it doesn't want to be hurt from childhood on up. And so, not wanting to be hurt, one builds a wall. One is very shy or aggressive. Before you attack, I'm ready to attack you. Verbally, with thought, because I'm so sensitive, so I have been hurt so much in my life, in my childhood. Everybody hurts me. In the office, in the factory, the foreman, the boss, everybody treads on each other's toes. And I don't want to be hurt. Is that one of the reasons why fear exists? You have been hurt, haven't you? No? And out of that hurt, we do all kinds of things. We resist a great deal. We don't want to be disturbed. Out of that feeling of hurt, we cling to something which we hope will protect us. And therefore, anything that attacks that which I am holding on to as protection, towards that I become aggressive. So, what is it that you, as a human being sitting here, wanting to resolve this problem of fear, what is it that you are frightened of? Is it a physical fear? Fear of not to have any more pain, physical pain. Is it physical fear or a psychological fear of danger, of uncertainty, of being further hurt, of not being able to find total, complete security, certainty? Fear of not wanting to be dominated, and yet we are dominated. So what is it that you, as a human being sitting here, are frightened of? Are you aware of your fear? Huh? Fear of the unknown. Is it? Now listen to that question. Fear of the unknown. Why should one be afraid of the unknown when you know nothing about it? Please inquire into it.
I don't believe that. I have an image of what has happened to me, and then I try to repetition of it.
Yes, sir. But is it the fear of letting go the known, not the fear of the unknown? You understand? Fear of the things I have gathered and letting them go. My property, my wife, my name, my books, my furniture, my good looks or bad looks, oh God knows what else. My, capacity, the things that I know, I've experienced, and letting them go. Is that fear? Or the fear of the future, the unknown? So your fear is of what will happen in the future, what might happen tomorrow, right? Shall we go into that? You are not afraid of today or what happened yesterday, but you are frightened of what might happen tomorrow. Tomorrow, in the future.
Isn't being frightened of what might happen tomorrow, being frightened of losing known recognitions today?
Or?
Isn't being frightened of what might happen tomorrow the same as being frightened of losing existing recognitions? get accepted?
So, look, sir, the gentleman asks a question which is, he says, I'm not frightened of yesterday or today, but I'm frightened of what might happen tomorrow, future. The tomorrow may be 24 hours later or a year later, but future, I'm frightened of that.
But the future is a result of all the expectations one has because of the past.
Expectations one has because of the past. No. Now, how will you, please just don't explain it. I am frightened of the future, right? How shall I deal with it? Don't explain it to me. I want to find out what to do with this fear. I'm frightened. What might happen? I might get ill. I might lose my job. I might, dozen things might happen to me. I might go insane. Gaga. I might lose everything. The things which I've stored up. So, the future. Now, go on, please inquire.
I think that it is not exactly the future that we fear, but rather the uncertainty of the future.
That's right, sir. The gentleman says,
New events which are to be feared, new events that be events whose issue cannot be predicted. This is the novelty which is fear fundamentally and not the future. Because if the future can be predicted, it is not to be feared. We know what it is, what it will be. You see, fear is a sort of defense of the total body against something completely new, which has not been predicted.
yes, he says, fear is the uncertainty and the total response of our whole being about the uncertainty of what life is, what might happen.
As I sit here, I don't fear the future as much as I fear not being here now. I see other people, and to me, they are who I see seems to be more real to me than this feeling here that is sitting here now, that I can't get in touch with.
Is it? I'm afraid of the future because the future is uncertain. And this uncertainty, I don't know how to deal with it, with my whole being. Therefore, I'm afraid. Fear is an indication of this uncertainty of the future. Is that it? What's that? That's only a part. Sir, we are taking that one fear. We'll take various forms of fears presently. We are asking, the gentleman asks, I really am not frightened of anything except of the future. The future is so uncertain. I don't know how to meet it. I don't know, I haven't the capacity to understand not only the present but also the future. So it is this sense of uncertainty that indicates fear. Now, how am I? Whatever the explanation be, the fact is, I am frightened of tomorrow. Now, how shall I deal with it? How shall I be free of that fear of tomorrow?
It means they're looking at one's response and approaching the uncertainty of the future, which would imply to be inadequate.
Sir, please help me. You understand? Don't theorize. I am frightened of tomorrow, of what might happen. The whole future is uncertain. There might be atomic war. There might be, God knows what. Ice age. They say there's going to be ice age in 50 years. I'm frightened of all this. How am I to deal with it? Help me. Don't theorize about it. Don't give me explanations. I'm pretty good at explanations.
Sir, need uncertainty breed fear.
What?
Need uncertainty breed fear.
My darling sir, I'm frightened of tomorrow. How are you going to help me?
Perhaps we are frightened because we are playing games and we are afraid of being exposed.
I am frightened because I am playing a game, and I am frightened because I don't want to be exposed. But you're not helping me.
Oh, if you're playing a game, you could stop playing that game,
Aren't you frightened of the future, sir?
Because I'm playing games.
Don't stick to it. Aren't you frightened of the future? Yes. When you come down to it, yes. Now, how are you going to deal with it? Living in the present. I don't know what that means. Huh? That is, I see. The lady says, let me understand the things I'm frightened of the past, examine them, and perhaps then I shall be able to understand the uncertainty of the future.
First of all, surely we've got to understand what we mean by the future.
That's what I'm trying to find out, sir.
Sir, one thing we have to do, the first thing, is not to be afraid of being frightened.
Oh, that's a cliche. That doesn't help me. That all this, sir, you haven't fed me. You give me a lot of words, ashes. I'm still frightened of tomorrow. What?
That is the problem. I
For the Lord's sake. What? Can't you wait for tomorrow and see what happens?
I would do the necessary things for physical security, but my need of psychological security, I don't understand that. You know, it is for physical security I can do something, yeah?
The gentleman means that, sir. He probably has some security physically, but psychologically he's frightened of tomorrow. That's all. That's all what he is talking about. He's got a little bank account, a little house, and all the rest of it. But he's not frightened about that. He's frightened of what might happen in the future. Huh? What is that, sir? While you are? Is it possible? Is it possible to live with uncertainty? Jesus. Wait, gentlemen, please, wait.
I don't believe in present. I shall listen then to the psychological. Sitting right here, I'm not afraid. But if I think about something that might happen, I just...
The lady says, sitting here, I'm not afraid. But thinking about tomorrow, I'm afraid.
We said we are afraid now. When we are afraid now, this is a fact. If we accept this fact, and we are totally afraid now, we live in the present. And if we live totally in the present, we forget the future.
Right, sir. Now let me look. I want to find out what causes this fear of tomorrow. What is tomorrow? Why tomorrow exists at all? You understand, sir? I'm going to answer you, sir. I want to find out how thought arises, how fear arises, thinking about tomorrow. Right, sir? I think about tomorrow. And the past has given me a sense of security. Though there have been great many uncertainties in the past, but on the whole I have survived. And up to now, I'm fairly safe, right? And tomorrow is very uncertain, and I'm frightened. In the past, though I've had fears, I've somehow survived them. And tomorrow is total uncertainty. Now, I am frightened of that. So I'm going to find out what causes this fear. of tomorrow, right? Tomorrow being uncertainty, insecurity, the response to that insecurity with my whole being, which is fear. You following, sir? So I want to find out why fear arises when I think about the future. Right? Which means future may be all right, but my thinking about it makes it uncertainty. I don't know the future, right? It may be marvelous, or it may be deadly. It may be terrible or most beautiful. I don't know. But thought is not certain about the future. So thought, which has been certain, which has always been seeking certainty, suddenly faced with this uncertainty, right? So, why does thought create fear? You follow, sir? Why?
Because it divides it in a thinker and a thought. It divides and creates distance from itself. This distance here coming to be.
Yes, sir. So he says, the questioner says, thought separates from the past and divides what might be, right? This separation of what is and what might be is part of this fear. Now I want to find out why thought creates this fear. If I didn't think about tomorrow, there would be no fear. Right? I wouldn't know the future. I wouldn't even care. Because I think about the future which I don't know, the future which is so uncertain, and my whole response, psychologically as well as physiologically, is to say, my God, what's going to happen? Right? So thought breeds fear.
Sir, is thought the only psychological function in your view that is able to bring about fear? But there are some other psychological functions like feeling who might bring about fear as well.
I am taking that, sir, just a minute, I'm taking that one particular thing. There are other factors too. Sir, fear of the future, the gentleman says, can be understood if I understand why I'm attached to a particular form of belief, to a particular convention, to a particular formula, and so on.
What about fear of existence?
Fear of?
What about fear of existence?
Fear of living. So, all these are involved, are they not? The attachment to a belief, to a formula, to a certain ideological concept which I have built for myself. All these are part of this fear, right? Now I'm bound to find out by seeing what is fear. I said that to you earlier, sir. I have done something in the past of which I am ashamed or of which I am frightened. I don't want it to recur. I am frightened of something that has happened in the past. Or I am frightened of something that might happen in the future. Thinking about what I have done in the past breeds fear, doesn't it? Thinking about the past. Are you following this? Thinking about the future, what might happen, also breeds fear. So I see, I may be wrong, we are examining, that thought is responsible for this fear, both of the past and of the future. Right? And thought is also responsible for fear by projecting an ideal, a belief, and holding on to that belief and wanting certainty out of that belief. It's all the operation of thought, isn't it? Right, sir? So I have to understand why thought thinks about the future, why thought goes back to some event, a happening which brought fear. Now, why does thought do this?
Thought tells itself that by imagining all the possibilities of the terrible things that could happen in the future, it can make some plans to prevent them. Is that, it seems to me, why thought tries to protect itself by imagining.
So, and also thought helps you to protect yourself, doesn't it? Through insurance, through building a house, avoiding wars. Thought cultivates fear, also protects, doesn't it? So we are talking about thought creating fear, not how it protects. Is that? Oh, come on, please. Is that all right? May I go on? I can go on, but will you go on with me? Will you also go into this by yourself with me? That is, I'm asking why thought breeds this fear. As thought also breeds pleasure, doesn't it? No? Sexual pleasure, the pleasure of the sunset which happened yesterday, and so on and on and on. So thought gives a continuity to pleasure, right? And also to fear.
Sir, the demand for pleasure causes a choice in the thought, a discrimination. This would be good and that would be bad. And the fear seems to come directly from that demand for the good thing happening and the avoidance of the bad thing.
Surely, sir, that's the whole process is based on thought, isn't it?
The discriminatory aspect.
Yes, sir, but it's still thought. Say, this is good, I'll keep, this I won't reject. But the whole movement of thought is the demand for pleasure. Right, sir? And discriminating in that, saying this will give me pleasure, that will not give me pleasure. So the whole movement of fear and pleasure, the demand and the continuity of both depends on thought, doesn't it? We first let's get this thing going.
Thought is fear.
Huh?
Yes, we know thought is fear.
We are going to find out, sir. I am safe today. I know I'm going to have my meal today. There is a house, there is a room, today I'm quite sure. But I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I have had great deal of pleasure yesterday in various forms. And I want those pleasures repeated. Tomorrow. You follow? So, thought both sustains fear and gives a continuity to pleasure which I have had yesterday. No? Come on, sir. No, then my question is, how am I not only to prevent the continuity of fear, but also I want pleasure to continue, don't I? You're following this? No? I want pleasure on one side and I want as much as possible. All the time. Tomorrow, day after, all the time in the future. And also, I have had fears and I want to get rid of them. And I don't want future fears. Right? So thought is working in both directions. Right? No? So this is your job, not mine. Look at it.
This gives thought a kind of energy.
Thought is energy.
It gives the type of energy.
Yes, sir. Go into it. It's both. Ribbon? Accumulating memories. The memories that have been pleasurable, I hold on to. And the memories that have been painful, which are fear, I want to throw out. Right? But I don't see the root of all this is thought.
Sir, thought seems to resist its termination. Fear or pleasure seem to be similar things, but that state where thought doesn't exist, the anxiety, the sensations accompanying the cessation of thought seem to be what we're concerned, what breeds our unhappiness.
That's what you're doing so totally, that to think about the things that are giving you pleasure while they're happening. Don't think about those things which may not happen because...
So how am I saying, don't think about those things which might not happen. How am I to prevent myself thinking about it?
Think about what's happening that
Oh,
you're enjoying.
so I force myself not to think about things that are happening and not about things that don't happen.
Think about what is happening.
What is happening? But my mind is always watching what might happen.
How does thought come to be?
Doesn't this happen to you?
Well, yes, but
Let's be quite simple and honest. I want to think about the things that are happening, but my thought also keeps an eye on what might not. It
it does, but still, just try to...
yes, it is it is there, and when I'm not thinking about this, that pops up. So, let's be simple. I want to go into it, so but to prevent all this.
The feeling I am has nothing to do with pleasure, nothing to do with fear, and nothing to do with thought. If I feel only I am, I am here. This feeling I am has nothing at all to do with thought.
So what? When you say I am, what do you mean by that word I am?
A feeling to be present, to be here. And there is no thought, no fear in that.
Sir, that is not the problem, sir.
Il pensiero, glielo dico in italiano, il
Sì, sì.
pensiero crea la paura perché è sicuro che esista qualcosa come la certezza. Dunque il problema è vedere se la certezza esiste o non esiste, se è qualcosa di reale. Questo secondo me.
Sì, bene. He says, find out if there is certainty or not. Then you won't be afraid. How shall I find out?
Oh, I see the whole process of thought in this sense as a trap.
Sir, you won't go into each person pursues something else. Look, let me state what I feel, what the problem is. I am frightened of tomorrow because tomorrow is uncertain. And I have been so far fairly certain in my life. Though there have been occasions in which I have been frightened, somehow I got over them. But the sense of fear of tomorrow, which is so uncertain, war, atomic war, the casual wars that might explode into all kinds of horrors, losing money, Nixon making a move and stock market going down. I'm in a state of convulsion about the future. Now what am I to do? I want to be free, if I can, of fear of both the past and of the future. Both fear deep down and the superficial fears. What am I to do? Don't give me explanations. Do this, don't do that. That's nothing. I want to find out what fear is. Whether it's of darkness, whether it is of uncertainty, whether it is the fear of holding on, attachment, holding on to something, person, idea, fear. You follow? I want to find out what is the root of it. Not how to escape from it. Not how to smother it. I want to see the structure of thought, of fear. If I can understand that, then something else can take place. So I'm going to investigate to find out what that fear is. Let me go on a little while, right? May I? Now, for me, fear exists because I'm thinking about tomorrow. Because tomorrow is so uncertain. Any amount of your assurance that tomorrow is perfectly all right, but I still feel fear. And now why am I thinking about tomorrow? Is it because the past has been so good? The past has given me a great deal of knowledge, and this knowledge has become my security. And I have no knowledge about the future. So if I could understand the future and reduce that to my knowledge, then I won't be frightened. And can I understand the future as knowledge, as experience? You're following this? So that I've understood it. So that it becomes part of my knowledge, of which I shan't be frightened. Right? I'll go on. So, I see also I want also a great deal of pleasure I want. Sexual pleasure, the pleasure of achieving, fulfilling, being somebody, being very clever, and the pleasure which I have had, I want those pleasures repeated, repeated, repeated. Or when I get bored with those pleasures, I want wider, deeper pleasures. So I want to avoid fear and I want more pleasure. Right? This is what we all want. And are these two separate? Is pleasure separate from fear? Or are they the two sides of the same coin? I must find out, not say yes or no. I must find out, go put my teeth into it, find out whether pleasure does breed fear and whether fear is the result of my demand for pleasure. You have understood my question? My principal drive is pleasure. Pleasure in every direction. I want to be safe tomorrow because that gives me great pleasure. Assurance, certainty.
But that pleasure could be something else. We learn to accept that pleasure as we today think as pleasure. That is a learning process. This is pleasure. Pain could as well be pleasure if humanity would
No, but pleasure is also painful. But I'll overcome it in order to have more pleasure. So, but haven't you noticed this in your life? How we want pleasure?
Yes.
That's all I'm talking. First, we are demanding, pursuing pleasure, primarily. In our looks, the dress we wear, you follow, everything is based on this. And when that is not fulfilled, then I become uncertain. So I'm asking myself whether pleasure and fear don't go together. And I am frightened of, I never question pleasure. You understand? Never say, but you should have so much pleasure. Where does this pleasure lead? But I want more of it. In heaven, on earth, in my family, in sex, everything that's driving me. And fear is there also. Look at it, please, madam. Listen to it. Don't stick to your particular opinion. For God's sake, move away from it. Find out. And also, I have fear of tomorrow. I don't know what tomorrow is. And if I could reduce tomorrow in terms of my knowledge, then I shan't be frightened. So, follow this. So, I want certainty of tomorrow. And certainty can only exist when there is knowledge. When I say, I know. Right? Now, can I know anything except the past? Moment I say, I know, it's already the past. When I say, I know my wife in terms of the past. So in the past there is certainty. And in the future there is uncertainty. So I want to draw the future into the past so that I'll be completely safe. So, I see fear arises where thought is operating. If I didn't think about tomorrow, there would be no fear.
I feel like I'm not afraid of future. You know, I don't think I'm afraid of future. When I'm afraid, it's now. You know, but never future. It's why it's hard for me to understand.
What's that?
I feel like I'm never afraid of future. When I'm afraid, it's now.
Yes, sir, but yes, you are saying, I am not afraid of the future. What I am afraid of is now.
Yeah,
When I am afraid, it is now, not of the future or of the past. But, sir, fear now, how does it come? But
I don't know that knowledge will, if I have knowledge, fear will go. I feel now that fear is something to me as an energy, some sort of force that's there.
I don't know how to deal with this thing. See, each of us has an opinion. Each of us are quite sure how to deal with fear. We explain it, we give causes, we think we understand, and yet at the end of it, we are frightened. So I say to myself, look, keep your opinions, hold on to them, suffocate yourself with those opinions, but still you will be afraid at the end of it. I want to go behind all that and find out why fear exists at all. Is it the result of thought? Thinking about the future? Because future is very uncertain. And thought is based on the memory of the past. Right? Thought is the response of memory, accumulated as knowledge, as experience for centuries. And that out of that comes thought. Then thought says, knowledge is my security. Knowledge. Now, you are telling me to be free of tomorrow, which is, I am uncertain. If I knew what tomorrow is, I will be no fear. Right? What I am craving for is certainty of knowledge. I know my past. I know what I did 10 years ago, or 2 days ago. I know it's very clear. I can analyze, understand, live with it. But tomorrow I don't know. And therefore, not knowing makes me afraid. And not knowing means not having knowledge of. Now, can thought have knowledge about something which it does not know? You are following this? So there is fear. Thought, trying to find out the future and not knowing what its content is afraid. So then I say to myself, why is thought thinking about tomorrow? About which it knows nothing. It wants certainty, but there may be no certainty. Right? But yet, why does thought think about tomorrow? Right, sir? Why? Please answer my question, not your question.
It is an essential feature of life that sort of prediction of the future.
Sir, we said that. I said that, sir.
Yes.
I,
Excuse me, this is the first one. And we must inscribe clear in this fundamental role of life, you see. The question of clear is that the necessary prediction at the logical and material level becomes some psychological disturbance and uses imagination to project the old fear, the past fear, like you say. But it is impossible to prevent the human being to think in a logical, in a precise way to the future.
Sir, if I may say so, we did say thought is necessary to protect physically its survival, right? As part of our life, what we are doing all the time.
I disagree. I think thought is not necessary for survival, and animals so instinctual, and that's what's different. I think animals, without any thought about tomorrow, have instinctual survival that includes fear. And I think that's part of us also.
No, but we are mixing up, madam, we are mixing two things. Please, we tried to explain at the beginning of this.
No, she's right.
I agree with, sir, I agree with her.
For human beings, that the instinct is replaced by thinking in a logical way. For animals, it is a system of prediction of future, which is instinct, of course.
Sir, I agree with you, sir. One must know that tomorrow that house will be there. Tomorrow I have to have my meals. Physical survival and the planning for future is essential, isn't it? Without that I can't survive.
When I see all these things so clearly, here has no time hearing no there, and I see so clearly all these things. Both can't live in the present, So, therefore, it must think of tomorrow.
Sir, it's hot weather. I need cooler trousers. I must plan to buy some trousers will be cool. That means planning for tomorrow. Huh? I must plan. I have to go to India in winter. I have to plan, which is in the future. We're not denying that. On the contrary, what we are talking about is the fear of uncertainty. Oh Lord, must I go through? The lady says we have no confidence in ourselves. That really I don't understand. Who is yourself for you to have confidence in? You are such a marvelous human being to have confidence in yourself. What is yourself? Huh? What is humanity? Madam. What is humanity? The good and the bad. The war, please, we have been through all that. So we are concerned with fear. Not use thought to survive. I'm not saying that we must use thought to survive. But to survive, thought has divided the world. Right? as my country in your country, my government in your government, my God, your God, my beastly guru and your beastly guru, you follow? My opinion, we have divided. And thought has created this. Though it wants to plan to survive, thought has divided the world, which destroys itself, of which I am part. So I have to understand the nature of thought, where it is necessary and where it is diabolical, where it is destructive, where it is creates fear. That's all my problem. I see thought must function. Otherwise you can't survive. But in the very desire to survive, it has divided and therefore destroying itself. Right? You can see this so simply. So I see thought must function clearly, objectively, without any distortion as mine, yours, my God, your. You follow? And also I see very clearly thought produces fear. So my question is, why does thought think about tomorrow? It has to think about tomorrow in one direction. Why does thought think about the future and breed fear?
Because in the past it didn't, while there was pleasure, and the pleasure was taken away.
No, you are not answering, madam. Why do you think about tomorrow, sir? You see, thought must think about tomorrow in order to be safe. That's clear. And also you see why thought thinking about tomorrow creates fear. Now why? Because we want to continue. See, look, it's now 18 minutes to 12. And we've got 3 more minutes. And we haven't solved this problem. Because we refuse to leave our particular little opinions, judgments, conclusions. We say, look, let me abolish, so let's think anew. For me, it's very simple. Thought must create fear because thought cannot ever find security in the future. Thought has security in time. Tomorrow has no time. Right? Tomorrow exists in the mind as time. But tomorrow may not exist at all, psychologically. And because of that uncertainty, thought projects what it wants for tomorrow. Safety, my what I have acquired, what I have achieved, what I have possessed, all that. And that is, too, is completely uncertain. So can thought be quiet about the future? That's all my point. Can thought be quiet? Which is function where it is necessary to protect physically. You follow? Therefore, no nationalities, no division, no separate gods, no warmonger. And thought be quiet so that the time as tomorrow doesn't exist. Yes, sir. Therefore, I have to understand what it is to live now. Right? I don't understand what it is to live now, nor have I understood what it is to live in the past. And I want to live in the future, which I don't know what the present is. So I'm asking, can I live completely, wholly today? I can only do that when I have understood the whole machinery and the functioning of thought, and in the very understanding of the reality of thought, there is silence. And where there is mind is quiet, there is no future, no time. Sorry.